But one step back that I'm going to give is that I actually see online organizing in parenthetical or quotations, like online organizing. I actually see it as a strategy to our larger just baseline organizing. You see what I'm saying? So online organizing is part of our organizing strategy. So it's not separated. It's not, put in a silo. We want to make sure it's strategic and it's actually all integrated together. And just to gauge a couple of quick questions, I like the round of sound. I like hearing, I'm a kinetic and audio learner, so I'm going to try to use that for this audience. So I'm going to give a couple of statements, and if you agree with it, I want you to make some noise. So I'm going to start off easy. How many of you enjoyed the tofu and soy cheese sandwiches today? One person? Because, I was looking for a tofu and soy cheese sandwich, and I didn't, man, I'm just saying. I got my muffins. I'm good. No, all right, that was a test run. Moving on, though. Creating a Facebook event. Online organizing?
Yeah.
Creating large lists and emailing actions.
Yeah.
Blogging and posting actions on Twitter. All right. I'm actually going to say that I don't think any of those actions alone are organizing. I see that as tactics to strategic organizing. Yep. So like being able to decipher the tactics and the strategy. And just to give you a quick example, so we can keep the panel moving. I want to talk about a budget campaign. Now, earlier I heard that getting our folks involved in budgetary campaigns or all these different legislative campaigns isn't exactly the most enticing or exciting, or some would say the sexy part of organizing. But we tried it this year, using and employing some online tactics and online organizing with our broader organizing. We believe that in organizing that we also want to make sure our values are represented, and we developed an agenda from those values. And of that agenda, our three core legislative targets this year was around healthcare reform, access to higher education, and green jobs and climate change. All right, and the budget campaign, as you know, was about creating the opportunity to send those funds to those major programs. And we saw that as a real way to create a victory after the election, and not create this kind of post-electoral abandonment or cyclical drop-off that usually happens after an election, even one as exciting as 2008. So we did a national call-in day for a budget, and this is 13 organizations trying to get their constituents and members excited about reconciliation. And I was told a couple of times, like, Calvin, I was the voice of the call-in number, and they're like, yo, Calvin, I want the Calvinicus in you to come out. I'm like, but I'm talking about reconciliation, an arcane budgetary process. How are we going to actually reach out to them? So once again, reaching people where they're at. We connected the value of what's happening in that bill to the tactics of getting them mobilized to actually call in for a budget call-in day of action. So we coordinated a strategy online through Twitter. We had Facebook status updates, and we had the call-in numbers. We had a Facebook group created. But all of these, separated could have been good, but it was connected to the broader strategy. On the actual call-in day, right, we got over 1,000 young people from these communities to call in, which is a pretty decent deal for a call-in day for a budget dealing with reconciliation, right? And then on top of that, it was connected to broader strategies where we're able to have over 3,000 in-district lobby days and in-person lobby visits. Lobby visits for those lobby days, not 3,000 lobby days. Y'all know what I meant. I didn't have my tofu sandwich, I'm just saying. But the main point here is that we were able to engage traditionally disenfranchised members from a process that seems so arcane. And thousands of young people made calls to Congress, thousands of young people did in-district lobbying, young people from communities and organizations were involved in Congressional Hill forums, and a big victory, the budget actually passed. Was it finished from there? Absolutely not. As you can see, we're still involved in SAFRA, we're still involved with healthcare. SAFRA is a student aid bill and dealing with grants to higher education. And then, of course, with healthcare and the upcoming climate bill, which is kind of stalled out right now, as you all know. So those actions were directly related to it, but the problem is, and this is articulating the problem very quickly, the challenge of online organizing was that I could tell you how many phone calls came in. I could tell you how many in-district lobby visits were made. I could tell you how many emails were open and whatnot, but I couldn't tell you how many people who joined the Facebook group who said that they'd actually do the phone call for the event actually followed through. I can't tell you how many people saw my Twitter update and were like, you know what, I'm going to make a phone call, with the exception of those folks who actually came up to me and said, yeah, I saw your Twitter update, I made a couple of phone calls. So the measuring of those and tracking of those actual metrics to see whether or not the impact of your social media is creating the return of investment and the return in the impact that you're looking for is actually being created. And I'll just pause there because you know, I don't want to take up too much space on the panel, but we are looking for creative solutions, and I'd love to talk a little bit more about that later on.
It just sounds like someone said, an organizer would say, if you can't measure it, you're not organizing it. And the problem with some of these new tools and techniques is that because it's not clear what you're measuring, and worse, you may have a bunch of stuff to measure, but do those measurements contribute to achieving your mission?
Right.
So I've seen a list of 100 things to measure in social media. Boy, was I impressed. You may not win anything, you may not sell anything, but the measurements are there, so we're good.
Right.
That's a problem.